You're listening to the Vibrant Vision Podcast, a podcast designed to help you get clarity, increase your confidence, and cultivate the most important connections so you can have the impact you were created to make. I'm your host, Amanda Kerrigan. Now let's get to making that vibrant vision a reality. Hello and welcome to episode 26 of the Vibrant Vision Podcast. I can't believe we're already on episode 26. And right now as I record this episode, it's the end of July. We're kind of in that dog days of summer, and I live in Colorado and it is hot. And I know that many of you are experiencing unprecedented heat, and we're in that season. I was just at the mall with a couple of friends this past weekend, and everybody's back to school shopping, and it seems like the summers get shorter and shorter. And if you're like me, your summer just flew by. Lots of good things probably happened, but it still feels like you're running at the frenetic pace of life. Like life is setting your pace. You're not setting life's pace. And there isn't that built-in slowdown like there was when we were kids, where we had a summer and we got to just go swimming and have a lemonade stand and go play with our friends and ride bikes. And there isn't that slowdown as an adult. And it does not mean that we don't get to slow down. It just means that we have to be a little bit more intentional about making that time to recharge. And usually when I coach with my clients around this idea of recharging, rejuvenation, resetting, they're like, yeah, but I don't have time. And I hear that a lot from a lot of different people. Yeah, I will when I have time. And one of my favorite parables is told in The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I've talked about this so many times, but I'm going to talk about it again on this podcast because this work is really a seminal work. It's so crucial to what we do. So habit 7 is sharpen the saw. And essentially, Dr. Covey tells a story about 2 woodcutters. And the one woodcutter cuts down a tree, and then he stops and he sharpens the saw. Whereas the other woodcutter's like, I don't have time for that. I'm going to keep cutting. And eventually, the second woodcutter is working 10 times as hard to cut down a tree as the one who is sharpening the saw. And so we have to sharp. And so it's time right now in this season, before back to school really gets into the swing of things, before we're in fall and we're ramping up for the year to end and the holidays are getting ready to start. It's time right now that we sharpen the saw. So the last 2 episodes, we've been talking about overwhelm and what it means to clear the stage of our brains. And so just like our brains need us to clear the stage, we need to get ourselves off the stage. So I think of this like when I was in high school. I was in theater. I was a nerd. And when I was in theater, we had on stage time, right? We were on stage. There was no room for us to just like sit down and say, I just don't feel like doing it. When we were on stage, we had an audience. We were performing for somebody. And so we had to be in character. We had to be not ourselves, basically. And when you're on stage, you're on all the time, and you put on these different selves. Maybe you put on your work self or your entrepreneur self, or I put on my musician self. So there's a little bit more that I pour into my audience when I'm performing than there is when I'm just like hanging out with them afterward, having refreshments or whatever we're doing. And there's no room for messing up or taking a seat. And when you're backstage, you're changing costumes, you're tuning instruments, you're wondering where the heck you put your red lipstick. That was me on Saturday. I could not find the lipstick that I needed for my performance. But everybody needs some off-stage time. So this is the time when the after party is over and you go home and you take off all of that heavy stage makeup and you're chilling in your jammies and you've got like your snack or whatever you've got going on and you're just chilling. And that's what we're talking about today, is rejuvenation, that time of just really connecting with yourself and with God. And rejuvenation looks different for all kinds of different people. I have a friend whose rejuvenation is riding her bike. I don't ride bikes. I haven't ridden a bike since I was like, I don't know, 10 years old. But she loves it, and that's her rejuvenation. So whatever it looks like, it's time for us to rejuvenate. And whatever it looks like, we need to make this time. So what the heck is rejuvenation? So according to the Oxford Dictionary, I actually looked this up, it is the action or process of giving new energy or vigor to something. So the action or process of giving new energy or vigor to something. And I feel like I need new energy and vigor all the time. And if that's you, then this episode is for you. And then we have several things. Rejuvenation has 5 parts that we're going to talk about today. So let's just dive right in. I'm going to give you an overview real quick. So the first one is refuel, which is your physical. Reset, which is your emotional and mental. Renew, which is your spiritual. Reconnect, which is your relational. And then reenergize, which is that creative rejuvenation. So let's dive right into what some of these look like. First, refueling. This is focused on your physical health and what you're doing to refuel yourself physically. And I think that a lot of times we don't focus on this because we say things like, oh, I just forgot to eat. I've never forgotten to eat, by the way. I just want to say that. I haven't forgotten many things, but I'm hungry all the time. And so I eat a lot. But we also discount sleep, which is the most important thing. And right now, as I'm recording this episode, full disclosure, I did not sleep well last night. And so I know when I'm doing my journaling and I ask myself, what is the one thing that I'm going to make time for today? It is getting to bed early because I am feeling sleep deprived. And it's undervalued in our culture. We're consistently told that sleeping is a weakness. We always say things like, I can sleep when I'm dead, which the ironic thing about that is that you're going to be dead sooner if you don't get some sleep. I'm a recovering overachiever. I took a very heavy load in college and I didn't get a whole lot of sleep, and it actually made me very sick. And it actually is one thing that I can trace back to the root causes of my autoimmune condition. I have Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid condition, and I can trace it back to this high stress, low sleep time in my life. And also, if you look on the internet, so many studies have shown that walking through life sleep deprived is basically the equivalent of walking through life drunk, but not quite as much fun. Let's be real. So when I'm making my rejuvenation plan, and I try to do this weekly, like how am I going to rejuvenate? How am I going to continue to sharpen the saw and refuel so that I can show up my best for my clients and for you as I'm doing this podcast? And sleep is at the very top of my list. How am I going to get enough? And so here are some questions for you to consider. How much sleep is optimal for me? I have a friend who only needs like 6 hours, okay? And my office mate, I got a new office mate, she told me she needs 9 hours. She's like, it's not 8, but 9. So you don't necessarily need a straight 8. Maybe you're one who needs a little bit more sleep. Maybe you need a little bit less. But figure out what's optimal for you. And the best way that I can tell you to do this is sometimes just figure out when you're going to bed and then don't set an alarm and see when you finally wake up. Now, this might take you a few days because so many times we run on that sleep deficit that we need more sleep to kind of refill that sleep bank. And you can't do that on the weekend every week. It's not actually healthy for you, but you can do it occasionally, which is what I'm planning to do tonight. It's refuel and refill that sleep bank. But really, what needs to happen is allow yourself to sleep and then figure out when you're waking up. Are you waking up at 7.5? Are you waking up at 8? Are you waking up at 8.5? Are you waking up at 4? And you're like, wow, I have a sleep problem. If you do, I'd suggest getting a little bit more professional help. But only you can answer this question. So experiment with what is going to make it easy for you to get enough sleep. The second question I want you to consider is, what helps me sleep? Is it reading? Is it meditating? Is it just writing things down? Like sometimes if I can't sleep, I will write down my to-do list, and that way that gets it out of my brain, and my brain knows, okay, we have a plan, we can go to sleep now. Okay, and then on the flip side, what hinders my sleep? And I'll give you a hint, it's usually something with a screen. Okay, your phone, your TV, all of those blue light emitting devices. Okay, and then next, refuel with food. And I'm not going to talk too much about this because everybody knows what a healthy diet is, and then refuel with exercise. So figure out a way to move. Okay, I don't care if it's just walking your dog or having a dance party or just doing some light stretching. Moving is going to help you release endorphins. So I'm not saying like go crazy and do like a high intensity workout. If that's not rejuvenating for you, some people it is. My little sister loves to work out. That is her rejuvenation. But make sure that you're moving and make sure that you're filling your body with good food, because a lot of times what we do is we've had a bad day. So we go home and we chill on the couch and we acquaint ourselves with our good friends, Ben and Jerry, and we watch TV and we just want to watch one more episode. So we're getting that blue light, then we're not getting sleep. And of course we didn't move because we're just chilling on the couch. And then we wonder why we're so tired the next morning. So that's the first one, is refuel. Really focusing in on that physical health, that physical rejuvenation. The next one is reset. So resetting your emotional and your mental state. We drag around so much junk emotionally, and we rarely take the opportunity to clear, to figure out what's going on. And so then we wonder, why in the world am I in such a bad mood? This is why the new year is so appealing for us. We're like, yes, fresh start. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. I love this, because we're not dragging all that stuff in, we think, but then we do because we haven't really dealt with it. So you can have a fresh start right now by doing an emotional reset. So let me tell you how this is done. So first, grab a piece of paper, write down all the things that you're feeling: stressed, happy, sad, fearful, angry, whatever it is. Write it down. I feel angry. I feel happy. I feel sad. And then write down what it is that kind of triggered this emotion. Because what happens is we don't even take stock of the thoughts that are creating our feelings. So this is basic cognitive behavioral therapy, but thoughts create feelings, which create behaviors. And behaviors create habits, and habits create who you are. So if you can capture that thought, what it is that led to this feeling, then you can either think more of those thoughts or change that thought and then change your feeling. And so identify what happened. Okay? So something happened with my kids or my spouse or my job, and then identify the thoughts you had about this. He's such a jerk. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. And then assess whether that's a fact or an opinion. And then determine how you want to think about the situation differently. Okay, maybe he was having a bad day. He's not a jerk. So maybe not making that judgment call. Our feelings will always follow our thoughts, but a lot of times we don't even take stock of what thought is going on. We just feel the emotion. We just feel the anger or the fear. Oh my gosh, I can't do this. Is behind that fear, but we don't even think that we're thinking that. So again, write down the emotion, determine what happened, what thought led to that emotion, and then how do you want to think about this in the future? That's just a really quick way to reset. It takes like 5 minutes. There are other ways to reset, like breathing, meditating, things like that will also help you reset. But when you're in a really quick, like I need some rejuvenation now, that's the fastest way that I know to reset. It's just, hey, what am I feeling? What thoughts led to that? How do I want to behave differently? So that's reset. And if you do this on a daily basis, you're going to find that you're not dragging around so much emotional junk, and then you're not feeling less energized. So it's just a really quick way to renew and reset very quickly. So that's emotional and mental. It's reset. Next is renewal. So this is your spiritual. So along a similar vein, we need to renew spiritually. And this can take a lot of forms, but here's some favorites of mine. Number one, prayer. If I don't get my prayer time in, I, without fail, have a worse day. Meditation, like I said, I really like meditating, but I don't do it every day because it's not a higher priority than prayer. So that's my way of doing it. But if meditation is your way of doing it, more power to you. Journaling, I love journaling because I am a writer. I'm a words girl. So if you're a words person, journaling will be your friend. Even if you write somebody a letter and then tear it up, can be very helpful in processing emotions. But also writing a letter to God and telling him what you're grateful for and telling him what's good in your life that you are hoping to get more of. And solitude. I have to have some alone time, at least a little bit of alone time. Reading scripture or spiritual books, also really helpful for me. I enjoy reading my scriptures in the morning. It gets me centered and gets me balanced. So that's spiritually. Making sure that you're renewing your mind and your spirit. And I like to take several times throughout the week to do this. However, I take a longer time on Sunday. So that's my rejuvenation plan weekly to do this, is to really have some good quiet time on Sunday. I know if you have kiddos, it's a little bit harder, but also you can build this in with your kiddos. Hey, we're going to have quiet time, so here's your meditation app, and we're going to put your headphones on, and you can listen to this. And so I know a friend who does that quite a bit with her kid, and she's teaching her to really engage with prayer and meditation. The next one is reconnect. So along that similar vein, when we think of self-care, we often think of, like I said, hanging out with Ben and Jerry on the couch with Netflix. And it's not really self-care because it's not rejuvenating. It's just spacing out. And Netflix is the junk food of your mind. Sometimes it's good. It is really, really good. And sometimes too much of a good thing is not good for you. So one thing that I always want to consider when I'm feeling drained is, who do I need to connect with? So it could be my mom or my sisters or one of my friends, but who do I need to connect with? And then is it just a text like, hey, I'm thinking about you, how are you doing? Or is it a phone call or a cup of coffee? Or, getting away with your girlfriends for the weekend? And then do it, okay? If it's reconnecting with your dog, go for a walk. I reconnect with my dog on a daily basis because she's part of my team. She's my seeing eye dog. Or call grandma, or meet for coffee, or virtual coffee if they're far away. I met a friend last Friday for virtual coffee, and it was beautiful. I love connecting with my friend. So that's reconnect. And then finally, reenergize. This is your creative rest. My mom is so crafty. And nothing makes her happier than when she's in her craft room and she's got a project. Like she's making cards for a friend, or she's making me a skirt. She called me on Sunday and she was making me a skirt. And every time she comes to visit, we have to go to Hobby Lobby or Joann's Fabrics and get her some more crafty stuff. Because my mom is really, really good at rejuvenating creatively. Really giving herself that re-energizing. And for me, like I've talked about a lot on this podcast, is music. I went to a cappella rehearsal last night and I did not want to go. I was so tired. It was Monday. Monday nights are a cappella nights. And I was like, I'm tired. And once I got there and I started singing with my friends and making music and hearing those harmonies, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is giving me so much energy. And when I don't take time to pick up my guitar or sit down at my keyboard, I feel it. I feel exhausted. I feel drained. And it's not that I feel drained physically or mentally or emotionally. It's that I don't have that outlet. And so one thing that I always tell my clients is there are two seas in Israel, the Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea. And the Sea of Galilee is teeming with life. It's one of the biggest fishing areas. And the Dead Sea has nothing in it. Like brine shrimp don't even live in it. And they both have an inlet. But the difference is that the Sea of Galilee has an outlet. And so if you don't have an outlet for your creative energy, if you're getting all of this input and this stimulation right now I'm creating, so this is my outlet, another outlet for me, and you're receiving, you're getting an inlet. So what are you going to do with this? How are you going to let out your creative energy? So in wrapping up, the trick to rejuvenation is to do it before you need it. So schedule it weekly. So when I'm looking at my plan, I'm looking at, how am I refueling physically? How am I planning my meals? How am I getting enough sleep? How am I resetting? So I do a daily reset. Because I know that if I don't, and I'm not perfect at this by any means, but I know if I don't reset, if I don't journal and get out those emotions and figure out where they're hanging out, then I am not going to be my best for my clients and for you in this podcast. And I need to renew spiritually. So I need to have that daily prayer time. I need to reconnect. So I have a time where I will just text a friend, hey, just thinking of you. Just wanted to say hi, or I'll call them. And so I decide who I'm going to connect with that day. And then finally, re-energize. So I'm having that music time pretty much every day. I'm not perfect at this. This is something I'm actually working on, is getting that re-energizing time in, because it's so easy for us to push off our creative outlets because it's like that's not a priority. To quote Stephen Covey again, is a quadrant 2 activity. So important, but not urgent. And so if you've enjoyed this episode, if you've enjoyed talking about rejuvenation and thinking about your plan, would you do me a favor? Would you please review the podcast and let me know what you think of it? It helps me reach other people, and it increases Apple's little algorithm that says, oh, people want to listen to this podcast. So if you would leave me a review, it would mean the world. And finally, if you need help rejuvenating, if you're like, oh my gosh, this is something I really struggle with, it's killing me, it's killing my clarity, it's killing my confidence, then I would love to chat with you, because rejuvenation is something that is so important. It is something that we don't give enough credence to. So there's a link in the show notes. You can just book a free call with me and we can talk. So we're going to be back with another episode for you. But until then, live your vibrant vision.